Hi textile buddies! I'm Daria, a textile and surface pattern designer and artist, both traditional and digital. On this channel, I'm talking all things textile pattern, color, and artwork. Patterns are everywhere, just saying. A very exciting topic for today. How can you make a living as a textile and surface pattern designer, namely a repeating pattern designer? I'm going to use these terms interchangeably. Okay, so you've mastered repeats and know a few different ways to make a viable repeat pattern tile, but as you know, it's not the final product yet. You need a way to turn it into patterned fabric, wallpaper, wrapping paper, and whatnot, or another surface, right? I'm going to introduce you to 12 ways of making a living as a textile and surface pattern designer if you are focusing on digital repeating patterns. I mean, you create a repeating pattern and you take it to the computer, and that's what you do. Maybe you already heard some of these ways, some of these platforms, and maybe it will be something completely new for you. Let's go. As a bonus, I will add a green check mark somewhere if I have already tried this method or I am currently doing it. I would like to divide them roughly into two categories first. The first category is working with a company or working with a larger entity, and the second one is being a completely independent designer. That's what I am right now. So let's discuss the first group, working for hire or working with a larger company, with a larger entity. So the first way here would be working as an in-house designer. It's a 9-to-5 job. You will most likely be working on someone else's artwork. That's important to know. The company purchases artwork from different sources, right? From artists, from studios, from print shows. In some companies, you will be making art from scratch, but it's very rare in large companies, at least in the United States here. A part of my journey is I was an in-house designer for 4 years, 2 years for textiles and 2 years for stationery. I went to the office every day with all the other employees, but in 2020, we know the pandemic happened and I worked for an entire year from home, full-time. Be aware that it's not uncommon for it to be a contract position. Also be aware that it might not be 100% focused on patterns. You might have to work with lettering or pillow design, or if it's a fashion company, a pattern means something completely different, right? A sewing pattern. It's good to have other skills and knowledge, not only, creating repeating patterns. Number 2, working as a freelance designer for a company. There are many variables here. I included it here because you can work full-time for the same company, but it's usually not the case. Usually a freelancer has to have several companies they work with. Even if work with the same company full-time or almost full-time, they never can guarantee you that they will have enough work for you, even if your relationship with the company is great. Number 3 is working for a print studio, in-house, for example. Print studios are companies that are focused specifically on making prints and some placement graphics for the fashion and home industry. There are a lot of them in New York City, in London. There are some great Australian studios as well. They are scattered all over the world. The studios might have some in-house and freelance designers. Usually it's a combination of both. Some examples of print studios are Longina Phillips, Tanabana, Tom Cody, Creativo, and more. You're probably wondering how you can find them. A good way would be to look at the exhibitors list of a print show, for example, Certex or Print Source. I will talk about print shows a little bit later. To be a part of a textile design studio, print studio, you need to have strong drawing and painting skills and computer skills as well. I would personally love to work with a print studio, but we don't have one in the Boston area. So there is a famous art agent here, Jennifer Nelson, but that's a different story, right? That's not a print studio, and I don't think my style works for Jennifer Nelson. But we'll see, maybe I'll reach out one day. Number 4, you can work for a print studio as a freelancer remotely as well. They usually need freelancers, so that would be some technical work. It would probably be like cleaning up the scans, putting things in repeat, recoloring. It's not so much creative as more technical. I would also mention here Pattern Bank. You might have heard of the company. They are essentially a print studio. Their requirements are very strict. You have to take an exam, you have to submit a portfolio. I don't remember how many, around 20 probably designs. They are geared towards fashion, towards clothing, and your designs have to be really on trend, it's not for complete beginners, I'd say. I was rejected by Parent Bank, which was a huge blow for me because I already had, I think, 2 years of experience when I applied, and their reply was very arrogant. They said like, your work is not trendy, but the wording was really weird, like the British way. It was like, it doesn't mean that we prevent you from uploading elsewhere. I'm like, thank you so much, like, for your permission. Now let's talk about the self-employment options as a textile and surface pattern designer. So number 5 would be uploading your designs to print-on-demand companies such as Zazzle, Society6, Redbubble, and others. They offer different products. It doesn't have to be even a repeating pattern. You can upload a single picture to use on a t-shirt or on a tote, for example. In order to succeed, you need to use the platform that your style is good for. For example, Society6 is a young dorm room kind of platform for a younger audience. I didn't know it until recently, actually. You also need to have a lot of designs. I don't think you can upload 3 designs and make a living from it. For example, Kat Koch is the person who I learned this information from her Skillshare classes. She's a very active contributor on Society6 and she has some great information on them. Number 6 is Spoonflower. It's also a print-on-demand company, but I want to single it out here because they focus on making fabric and wallpaper and also home decor such as pillows, bedding, curtains, tablecloths, and so on. As you probably know, I am a very active Spoonflower contributor. I always have some kind of Spoonflower fabric here. So the way it works, you upload a repeating pattern tile, and once the customer orders something, Spoonflower prints the product or the fabric or the wallpaper and sends it for you. So it's really convenient, right? And very sustainable as well. In order to succeed on Spoonflower, you need to have a lot of quality designs. So quantity and quality both matter on Spoonflower. Spoonflower also has a great reputation. Some of the most popular categories on Spoonflower are quilting fabric, of course, baby and pets products. Think of it as a large fabric store where people are looking for something special that they cannot find in a regular fabric store. At the same time, people sometimes might look for basic fabrics and simple designs to match their product. For example, polka dots, little stars, hearts, interesting stripes. It doesn't always have to be very complicated. If you are serious selling on Spoonflower, you should also consider uploading to Spoonflower design challenges. I just made a video about it, like literally an hour ago. Also, Spoonflower is a numbers game. Let's do a case study. Let's take Amy McCready, who is a very active contributor on Spoonflower. She won multiple times. Her style is great. She's very popular. But if you go to her store, she has thousands of designs that she has been uploading consistently, and she keeps producing them. She makes them in several scales. She has a very distinct and recognizable style. So all of her fame and success is completely deserved. Number 7 is you can sell digital downloads on various platforms such as Creative Market, Etsy, Gumroad, The Hungry JPEG, and also microstock websites such as Shutterstock, Adobe Stock, Getty Images, Vector Stock, and so on. Yes, you can buy illustrations on Etsy, not just handmade products. What I mean by digital downloads is watercolor and vector clip art, mock-ups, illustrations, and in our case, patterns. It's important to know that it's a kind of license. You are licensing your designs through these platforms. Creative Market stands a bit aside from these platforms as the way of presenting your materials is very different and requires more advanced design skills. I wouldn't say it's a beginner-friendly platform. I have a small shop there too. I stopped uploading designs there because, say, I'm selling watercolor illustrations and of like peaches, and somebody buys them and makes a pattern, and it will probably look very similar to what I make myself, you know. I don't want that. As for Shutterstock and other microstock websites and Etsy downloads as well, they have a worse reputation because the commission is very low. And I also have a small portfolio on a couple microstock websites, but I don't put designs there that were too painstaking to create and too good. You know, I think it's okay to post something simple and generic like stripes, dots, hearts, but it's a totally viable way of making a passive income once you have put a lot of hard work in. Oxantia has a lot of videos on YouTube about this topic. I recommend watching them. Number 8, another way of selling patterns is going to a print show. Surtex and PrintSource are two largest ones in the United States, and people from all over the world come to these shows. There are more, of course, and there are some in Europe and other parts of the world. I visited PrintSource in 2016 as a visitor. I just graduated from college. The exhibitors there are usually either studios or independent artists, and that would be you probably. You rent a booth there. It's very pricey. It's a couple $1,000s. The companies, the clients coming there are the companies who need artwork, right? For example, Gap, a totally random example, but I think Gap probably buys artwork on these shows. I've heard this world has changed a lot since the pandemic. Many things are done remotely. People are going back to the normal way now. It's definitely an investment, and I would say don't go there without investigating the trends and the topics very well, and the categories of art as well. The more art you have, the better, of course. You can organize them in like flowers or kids designs or stripes. It's probably not a beginner path, I would say, but who knows. It's a great way to network with the right people. So my experience, I was there as a visitor. I mean, I already had my company, my baby company, Pattern Talent, so I registered there as, you know, as a visitor. I took my husband with me, registered him as the head of marketing or something like that. And he was like pushing me like, go, talk to people, talk. But to be honest, many companies were not happy to see me. Some were plain rude. They were like, oh, you're not buying anything? Just get out, you know, don't distract. Some people were friendly and they were like, oh, I understand you just graduated, I get it, but please, like, if clients come in, just kind of step aside. I was like, I totally understand that. So I brought some business cards there that I gave to people, and most importantly, I gathered some business cards. I haven't done anything with that information yet till the day, but at least I learned about some names, you know, some studios, some companies. I would say it's a good experience visiting before exhibiting. Number 9. Another way is making a physical product with your patterns, either by yourself, you could sew things yourself, or by finding a vendor. For example, I have a shop with square silk scarves, with decorative pillows, kitchen towels, and some other stuff like watercolor prints. You can sell it on your website, you can sell it on Etsy, on local fairs, local shops, artist co-ops, and even some bigger stores if you reach out to them and offer them your product. The products could be greeting cards, totes, kitchen towels, decorative pillows, and more. Number 10, it's a very popular one, a very widely discussed one in the design communities, is licensing. Licensing and selling your designs. The first option is to license directly to companies by looking for art directors' contacts on LinkedIn and other resources. It's a complicated process, but not impossible. The benefits are that you have full control over the process and you can receive a higher licensing fee if you are successful. The cons of it are that it's really painstaking to build a network. Another thing is that people don't like to talk about it, but the companies actually prefer to buy artwork in many cases. Not all companies, but particularly large companies. I worked with a very big company and with a medium-sized company, and they both only bought artwork outright. They didn't want to bother with licensing, with royalties. They would rather buy the artwork and own it, which means they can change it, they can rescale, recolor it, and they don't have to think about the artist. Of course, it's more expensive than licensing. So there's a huge disconnect of pricing. Many artists, I constantly see these comments in Facebook groups where designers are like, I don't get off the couch for less than $1,000. but it's not always true. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I believe that some artists can license their designs successfully, but it's not the only option, trust me. My personal opinion, my personal feel is that licensing in this traditional way is a little bit outdated. Like 20 years ago, it was a very lucrative field and there were some like puzzle artists who would make a great income. But now things have changed, you know, the competition is high. There are so many artists, so many designers, not even just in the United States. In the UK, there are different countries where, you know, designers produce artwork and sell it through Shutterstock or Etsy and whatnot. I think it also depends a lot on the industry. I feel like quilting fabric is a world of its own and licensing is still very, very popular in this industry. It is a huge topic. I suggest you take some Skillshare classes on licensing. I really liked Ronnie Walter's classes on Skillshare about licensing. Number 11, you can work with an art agent. You can license your artwork or sell your artwork through an art agent. There is this opinion like you've made it if you have an agent, but it's not necessarily true. First, you can be successful without an agent. And second, having an agent doesn't guarantee that you will have work. It's kind of like actor's agent, right? The agent stands for you, but you also need to do the work. The pluses of having an agent are they handle all the money talk, the negotiations, the selling part, and the minuses are it's hard to get an agent. Don't think that agents are looking actively for artists. They will only take you if you've either been established or maybe both, like you already have a very distinct style, you have a following, you have a substantial online presence, and you know they want to make money off of you, so they want to make sure you are doing a product that it will be selling. I think it's virtually impossible to find an agent right away if you're a beginner artist. So to be successful working with an agent, you need to be very prolific. You need to create a lot of artwork and a lot of quality artwork. And you need to have a distinct style as well. I've seen a couple artists who I follow kind of hop on and off with an agent. Sometimes they are with an agent, a couple years later they drop the agent, maybe they think they can do it themselves, then they come back to the same or to a different agent. Relationship is very important. Agents can also scam you because there are some, you know, good reputable agents, and there are agents who have hundreds of artists, so they can't really give you all the attention that you would like. It's also good to have skills other than repeating patterns. So lettering is very important, right? Illustration skills are also very handy for being represented by an art agent. The next one is teaching. Everybody teaches now, right? There's always something to teach. You could teach textile design or fashion design or illustration because they are constantly interrelated, interconnected. You can go from one to another and more. So which way is for you, you might ask? It depends a lot on your personality, your preferences, your skills, and your financial situations. I'd say pay attention to these two things. Number one, if you need money fast and you are planning to completely rely on your surface pattern design business, get an in-house full-time job. It's the most stable. All the other ways require months, if not years, of hard work before you can make a full-time income. Please be very aware of this. The second question I want you to answer to yourself is, how much control do you want to have? Would you rather just take directions from your manager and do what you're told? Completely fine. In my personal experience, I had a full-time in-house job, but I wasn't happy because I was working on someone else's art. I knew I had this creative potential. I really wanted to work on my own art. I wanted to do whatever I want, you know, the crazy kinds of designs. I wanted to have this full, complete creative freedom and full control of what I do. But with that, it sounds amazing, right? But you're taking 100% responsibility for all your actions, for all your marketing, finances, and everything else. But my full-time in-house job, of course, was a boot camp. I learned a lot. I really upped my skills, and I'm super grateful I had this opportunity. So don't shy away from design work, for a company, especially if you're a beginner. Maybe it's not your dream job, but it's a step, it's a building block for your future career. Or you might be completely happy working with a company, you're doing standard work. It's still very creative and very fun, so might totally be your cup of tea. Every way has nuances. Please be responsible, do your planning and research. Do not plunge full-time right away. I know it sounds like a fun, creative job, and it is, but it is a job. So, you need to do all your planning and see if it will work for you. Now that's it. If you have any questions or kind comments or would like a separate video on a certain aspect, please drop a comment below. I would really appreciate your like, because it helps me push the algorithm, and be visible a little bit. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell icon. Follow me on Instagram, pattern_talent. Visit my Spoonflower shop, visit patterntalent.com to see products that I make with patterns. And remember, textiles are everywhere.